Welcome to the 317 story. Tonight we bring you a chilling tale, the haunting of Villisca Axe Murder House, a home stained with blood and sorrow. In 1912, an entire family was brutally murdered in their sleep. Some say their restless spirits still roam these halls. Let's begin. In the summer of 1912, the small rural town of Villisca, Iowa, was the very image of Midwestern peace. With a population under 2,000, everyone knew each other. It was a place of church bells, local fairs, and front porch conversations. The Moore family, Josiah, his wife Sarah, and their 4 young children, lived in a modest white house near the edge of town. Josiah ran a successful implement business, Sarah was active in the Presbyterian church, and their children were loved by everyone who knew them. They were respected, religious, and deeply rooted in the community. On the evening of June 9, 1912, the Moores attended the Children's Day service at their church, a special annual event where kids sang, recited Bible verses, and brought families together. Sarah had helped organize the program, and the entire Moore family participated. That night, 2 other young girls, Lena and Ina Stillinger, joined them for a sleepover. They were friends of Catherine Moore, the oldest daughter, and their parents agreed to let them stay the night after the service. After the event ended around 9:30 p.m., the group walked home together. They reached the Moore residence by 10 p.m. Inside, the children settled into bed, the Stillinger girls taking the guest bedroom on the first floor, while the Moores slept upstairs. The house fell into silence. What none of them knew was that someone had already entered the house and was waiting. Investigators later believed the killer had slipped into the home earlier that day, perhaps during the church event, and hid in the attic. He brought no weapon, but instead found Josiah's axe outside, brought it in, and waited patiently until the family was asleep. It's believed that sometime between midnight and 5 a.m., he descended from the attic and began his bloody rampage. His first stop was the master bedroom. He attacked Josiah Moore with the blunt end of the axe, crushing his skull while he slept. Then he turned on Sarah, killing her with similar brutality. The blows were so violent they left deep marks in the ceiling. From there, he went into the children's room. One by one, he struck Herman, Catherine, Boyd, and little Paul, each of them attacked in their beds, likely never waking. The killer then made his way downstairs to the guest bedroom. There, he found Lena and Ina Stillinger asleep. This time, something was different. Lena had defensive wounds, suggesting she had woken up and perhaps tried to escape or fight back. Her body was found in an unusual position, with signs that disturbed investigators and pointed toward possible abuse. The horror she faced in her final moments was beyond comprehension. Once the murders were complete, the killer didn't flee. Instead, he stayed. He covered the faces of each victim with cloths or clothing, perhaps out of remorse, or maybe to avoid looking into the faces of the dead. He went back upstairs and struck the bodies again, seemingly in a rage. In the kitchen, he took a 2-pound slab of bacon from the icebox, wrapped it in a towel, and placed it next to the axe near the Stillinger girls. He also left a bowl of bloody water in the kitchen sink, believed to have been used to wash his hands. Then, he locked the house from the inside, leaving the axe behind. By morning, Villisca began to stir, but the Moore household remained silent. Neighbors found it strange. The chickens weren't fed, the family wasn't out, and Josiah had missed the morning meeting. Mary Peckham, a neighbor, knocked on the door but received no response. Growing concerned, she contacted Ross Moore, Josiah's brother, who came with a spare key. What he found inside would shake the entire town to its core. The sight of blood. The stench of death. The eerie silence of a house where laughter had once lived. Ross fled the house in horror, and soon the sheriff and local doctor arrived. One by one, the victims were found. 8 people, brutally murdered, all still in their nightclothes. The axe lay near the Stillinger girls. The crime scene was chaotic, but not because of the killer. It was what came after. Word of the murders spread like wildfire. People came in droves to see the house before it was secured. Over 100 curious locals walked through the crime scene, destroying what little evidence there was. Police hadn't cordoned off the home. Bloodied footprints were smeared. Fingerprints were lost. It was a complete forensic disaster. Investigations began immediately. There were multiple suspects. A traveling minister named Reverend George Kelly had been in town that night. He was strange, nervous, and left Villisca on the morning train. He confessed to the crime twice, only to later recant. Some believed Josiah had enemies in the business world, possibly someone seeking revenge. Others believed it was the work of a serial killer, especially because similar axe murders occurred in other towns in the months before and after Villisca. But despite national headlines, police interrogations, and court trials, no one was ever convicted. To this day, the Villisca Axe murders remain unsolved. Over the years, the Moore house developed a reputation. Locals claimed to hear voices inside. Children's laughter would echo through empty rooms. Visitors reported cold spots, shadow figures, and sudden feelings of dread. Paranormal investigators from around the world visited the site. Many captured EVPs, electronic voice phenomena. Some claimed to be scratched, pushed, or overwhelmed by unseen forces. The attic, where the killer is believed to have waited, is often cited as the most active area. Tourists, ghost hunters, even skeptics have all left shaken. Today, the house stands preserved as a museum. It looks much as it did in 1912, down to the wallpaper and furniture. You can tour it during the day, or even rent it overnight. Many do. Some out of curiosity, others to experience the unexplained. Few leave without feeling changed. The Villisca Axe Murder House is more than just a crime scene. It's a place where time stands still. A place filled with sorrow, mystery, and something else, something that can't be explained. Over a century has passed, but the house remains alive with questions, with silence, and with spirits. Because in Villisca, Iowa, the night never really ended, and the killer was never found. This time, we journey to Japan's historic Himeji Castle. Beneath its majestic walls lies a haunting story, the Ghost of Himeji Castle. They say the spirit of a betrayed woman still wanders there, never finding peace. Let's listen closely. Japan, land of ancient temples, sacred shrines, and ghost stories whispered through generations. Among them, one tale stands out, wrapped in truth, sorrow, and revenge. This is the story of Okiku, the woman whose restless spirit is said to haunt the halls of Himeji Castle even today. Himeji Castle is one of the most beautiful and best preserved castles in Japan. Known as the White Heron, its elegant white towers rise above the town of Himeji, like wings spread wide. But behind its beauty lies a dark and disturbing past. Beneath the castle grounds, in a well hidden among the stone, a woman's screams still echo. Locals call it Okiku's Well. The story begins during the 17th century, in the Edo period. The castle was under the command of a powerful samurai lord. Among his many servants was a young, loyal maid named Okiku. She was kind, honest, and deeply committed to her duty. Her beauty and grace made her well known throughout the castle. But she caught the eye of a man she would come to fear, Aoyama Tezen, a high-ranking samurai officer. Aoyama wanted Okiku, not just her loyalty, but her love. He offered her riches, status, even marriage. But Okiku refused. Again and again. She wasn't interested in power. Her heart remained untouched by Aoyama's advances. This rejection wounded his pride. Aoyama's desire turned dark. What he couldn't win, he would break. One day, Aoyama set a trap. He falsely accused Okiku of losing one of 10 priceless porcelain dishes owned by the castle. These dishes were national treasures. The punishment for losing even one was death. Okiku counted the plates over and over. 1, 2, 3, all the way to 9. But the 10th was gone. Missing. She was in disbelief. Aoyama confronted her and offered a cruel choice. Become his mistress and live, or refuse and be executed for theft. But Okiku refused. Proud and brave, she chose death over dishonor. That night, in a fit of rage, Aoyama grabbed Okiku and dragged her to the well. He beat her, tied her hands, and dropped her body down into the dark, cold water below. Her screams echoed off the stone walls. Then silence. But death did not bring peace. Soon after, strange sounds were heard from the well at night. Guards and servants reported hearing a woman's voice counting. Ichi ni san sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 9. Then silence. Then, a blood-curdling scream. The voice repeated night after night. Those who heard it couldn't sleep. Some went mad. Others claimed they saw a shadowy figure standing beside the well, long hair wet and tangled, eyes hollow with sorrow and rage. The castle became cursed. No one dared approach the well. Aoyama himself began losing his mind. He heard her voice wherever he went, behind doors, under his floor, even in his dreams. He tried rituals, brought in monks, made offerings, but nothing stopped Okiku's ghost. Eventually, Aoyama disappeared. Some say he fled the castle. Others believe he was dragged into the well by her vengeful spirit. No one knows for sure. But the legend of Okiku lived on. To this day, visitors at Himeji Castle speak of chills near the well. Some claim to hear counting in the wind. Paranormal investigators have recorded whispers, temperature drops, and even misty figures forming on camera. Locals say, if you stay too long near the well, she might count you among the lost. But the most haunting part, the well is real. Okiku's well exists, preserved beneath the castle, surrounded by a low stone wall. Tourists visit it every day. Some leave offerings. Others just stare in silence, feeling something they can't explain. Himeji Castle remains a national treasure. Its walls shine white under the sun, but its soul is stained by the cries of a woman who chose honor over life. A soul that still counts and waits. Because sometimes the dead do not sleep. Sometimes they remember. This time, we travel to London, to a house disturbed by unseen forces, the Enfield Poltergeist. Objects moved on their own, voices echoed, and the fear was overwhelming. Let's begin the story. In the quiet North London suburb of Enfield, a haunting unlike any other would soon capture the attention of an entire nation, and beyond. It was 1977, and at 284 Green Street lived a struggling single mother named Peggy Hodgson with her 4 children, Margaret, age 13, Janet, age 11, Johnny, age 10, and Billy, the youngest at 7. They were an ordinary British family, living in a modest council house. But what began as an ordinary evening soon turned into one of the most well-documented paranormal events in history. It all started on the night of August 30th. Janet and Johnny were getting ready for bed when they heard scratching noises coming from the walls. At first, they thought it was mice. Then, the furniture began to shake. A chest of drawers slid across the room, on its own. When Peggy tried to push it back, it refused to move, as if an unseen force held it in place. Moments later, a loud crashing noise echoed through the house, though nothing had fallen. Peggy gathered her children and ran to the neighbor's house in terror. The police were called. When they arrived, they too witnessed strange events. One officer claimed she saw a chair lift off the floor and move 4 feet across the room. No rational explanation was found. The report was filed, but the haunting had only just begun. Over the next few days, things escalated. Knocking sounds came from the walls and ceilings at all hours. Toys flew across rooms. Lights flickered. Objects disappeared and reappeared in impossible places. The Hodgsons were terrified, and news of the activity began to spread. Eventually, reporters from the Daily Mirror, as well as photographers, visited the home. What they saw shocked them. Lego bricks and marbles flew through the air, often at high speed, and objects would appear warm to the touch, as if they had just been thrown by human hands, though no one was there. One photographer was struck in the face by a flying object and left bleeding. They printed what they saw, and the Enfield house became front-page news. Soon, the Society for Psychical Research got involved. Two of their members, Maurice Grosse and Guy Playfair, began to investigate the case. They moved into the house to observe the events firsthand. What they experienced defied logic. Janet, the 11-year-old daughter, seemed to be at the center of the activity. Objects often moved around her, and she reported being thrown from her bed at night. One time, she was found levitating, caught on camera hovering midair several feet above her bed. Her voice would sometimes change. In deep, unnatural tones, she would speak in what sounded like an adult male's voice. The voice claimed to be Bill Wilkins, a former resident of the house who had died of a brain hemorrhage in a chair in the living room. The investigators questioned the voice. They asked personal, private things about Bill's life, details that only his family would know. Janet, with eyes closed and mouth barely moving, answered them accurately. It was disturbing, uncanny, and impossible to dismiss. Even Bill Wilkins' son confirmed many of the details were correct. But skepticism soon followed. Some accused Janet of faking it for attention. Others believed the children were playing elaborate pranks. At times, Janet even admitted to testing the investigators by staging a few events, but always insisted the core phenomena were real. Playfair and Grosse, who spent over a year documenting the haunting, believed the family. They had recorded over 2,000 unexplained incidents, furniture flipping over, books flying, sudden temperature drops, puddles forming out of nowhere, and dozens of voice recordings. What made the Enfield case so terrifying wasn't just the events. It was how public and well documented everything was. Newspapers, audio tapes, photographs, police reports, all supported the story. And yet, no one could say with certainty what was happening. As time passed, the intensity of the events decreased. By 1979, the activity had mostly stopped. The Hodgsons continued to live in the house, though Janet was deeply affected. She later said the entity never fully left her, and that strange things happened to her well into adulthood. When asked why she believed it all happened, she said, "It was as if something evil had found a way in, and refused to leave." Years later, Ed and Lorraine Warren, the famed American demonologists, visited the house. They too believed it was a case of demonic possession and poltergeist activity. Their experiences formed the basis of the 2016 horror film The Conjuring 2, bringing renewed attention to the case. While the movie added fictional elements, the core of the story, the fear, the family, and the presence, was all too real. To this day, debate continues. Some call it a hoax. Others swear it was real. But for the Hodgson family, it was never about belief. It was about survival. Even now, decades later, the house at 284 Green Street still stands. New families have lived there. Some report strange feelings. Others say they've heard whispers at night. But no one stays long. The energy of the place remains off, as if something once broken was never fully repaired. The Enfield Poltergeist case remains one of the most famous and most chilling paranormal investigations of all time. It wasn't a castle. It wasn't a graveyard. It was a simple, suburban home. And that's what made it so terrifying. Because if it could happen there, it could happen anywhere. Our next tale takes us to the ruins of Bhangarh Fort in Rajasthan, India. They say the fort is cursed, and no one dares enter after sunset. This is the story of the Bhangarh Fort curse. Listen carefully. In the dry, dusty hills of Rajasthan lies the abandoned ruins of a once mighty fortress, Bhangarh Fort. Surrounded by Aravalli Mountains, thick brush, and an unnatural silence, the fort stands as a grim reminder of a curse so powerful, it erased an entire kingdom. Today, even the Indian government has posted warning signs near its gates. Entering the fort after sunset is strictly prohibited. Locals follow this rule without question. Because once the sun goes down, no one dares to stay inside. The story of Bhangarh dates back to the 16th century. The fort was built by King Madho Singh, the younger brother of Emperor Man Singh I, under the guidance of a wise and respected ascetic named Guru Balu Nath. Before construction began, the king sought permission from the guru, who lived in a cave nearby. The sage agreed, but with one condition: the shadow of the fort must never fall on his cave. If it did, he warned, the entire city would be cursed and destroyed. King Madho Singh promised to honor the condition. Construction began, and Bhangarh flourished. It became a vibrant town with palaces, temples, gardens, markets, everything a royal capital could have. The walls were high, the towers grand. People called it a paradise in the desert. But years passed. Successive rulers expanded the fort, adding taller structures, proud monuments. No one paid attention to how the fort's shadow slowly crept across the land, until one day, it fell upon Balunath's cave. The sage's warning had been broken. Enraged, he cursed the land. As the shadow falls, so shall the city fall, he is believed to have said, and fall it did. According to legends, strange things began to happen. Crops dried up. Water sources turned bitter. People started disappearing. The once busy streets became silent. Rumors of unnatural deaths spread like wildfire. Within years, Bhangarh was deserted. The royal family vanished without a trace. Entire bloodlines were wiped out overnight. Some say an earthquake destroyed the kingdom. Others believe it was black magic. But one tale stands above all others: the story of Princess Ratnavati. She was known across Rajasthan for her beauty. A skilled dancer, wise beyond her years. Many kings and princes sought her hand in marriage, but she rejected them all. One day, while shopping in the town market, she was spotted by a local tantric, a black magic practitioner named Singya. Singya fell in love with her at first sight. But he knew he could never win her heart, not through normal means. So he prepared a powerful love potion, disguised as perfume, and sent it to her through a maid. But the princess sensed something was wrong. She threw the bottle away, and it shattered on a large boulder nearby. That very moment, the stone rolled off on its own, unnaturally, and crushed Singya to death. But before he died, he cast one final curse upon the kingdom. No one shall ever live in peace here again. Soon after, war broke out. The neighboring kingdom invaded. The entire population of Bhangarh was slaughtered. Princess Ratnavati was never seen again. Some believe she died. Others say her spirit remains trapped within the walls, searching for justice. The city never recovered. Centuries later, Bhangarh Fort remains abandoned. Locals refuse to go near it after dark. Some believe the spirits of the dead still roam the halls, princesses, soldiers, sages, all bound by the curse. Paranormal investigators have reported ghostly voices, sudden drops in temperature, and shadows that move against the moonlight. Some have claimed to see the figure of a woman dressed in royal garments, standing at the palace window, staring into the dark. Even the Archaeological Survey of India has declared the place dangerous. A warning sign at the entrance clearly states, "No entry before sunrise and after sunset." Tourists come during the day, hoping to catch a glimpse of something otherworldly. Some faint from fear. Others feel an invisible presence following them. But by sunset, the fort empties like clockwork. The gates are locked, and the land falls silent. Because in Bhangarh, when the light fades, the curse awakens. A kingdom built in pride, destroyed by shadow, haunted by sorrow. This is not just a legend. This is Bhangarh, and its curse is very real. Now we visit Los Angeles, where the Cecil Hotel holds dark secrets. Deaths, disappearances, and chilling mysteries surround this place. This is the Cecil Hotel Tragedy. Let's begin. In the early 1800s, the quiet rural town of Adams, Tennessee was home to the Bell family, farmers living on a modest plot of land along the Red River. John Bell, the patriarch, was a respected man, his wife Lucy a kind soul, and together they raised a large family in peace. But in the year 1817, their lives took a dark and terrifying turn. one that would become the most famous haunting in American history. It began with strange sounds. At night, the family heard knocking on the walls of their cabin, slow, deliberate taps, as if someone was outside, trying to get in. At first, they dismissed it as animals or wind, but the noises grew louder and closer. Soon, they began hearing scratching sounds under the floors and heavy chains dragging across the wooden planks. Then came the whispers, low, unintelligible murmurs that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. John's youngest daughter, Betsy Belle, became the focus of the activity. Her hair was pulled by unseen hands. She was slapped across the face, leaving red welts. Sometimes, she was even lifted off her bed and thrown across the room. No one in the house was safe. The entity seemed to gain power by the day. What made this haunting different from most was that it spoke. The voice grew stronger, clearer. It would sing hymns, quote scripture, and mimic the voices of family members. It laughed at their fear, taunted their prayers, and refused to leave. The spirit eventually claimed to be a witch, sent to torment John Bell for unknown reasons. As word spread, neighbors and even outsiders came to witness the haunting. The Bell house became infamous. Visitors reported being slapped, pinched, or having their clothes yanked. One man had his boots ripped from his feet by invisible hands. Another was followed by the voice all the way home, even though he lived miles away. The spirit was intelligent, manipulative, and cruel. It soon began calling itself Kate, and seemed to have particular hatred for John Bell and his daughter Betsy. Betsy, who was then a teenager, became the center of the witch's wrath. Every time she saw her fiancé, Joshua Gardner, the attacks became worse. The spirit screamed at her, pinched her skin, and threatened death if she married him. John Bell, once a strong man, began to weaken. He complained of a strange stiffness in his jaw and swelling in his face. He had seizures, blackouts, and hallucinations. The witch often mocked him, calling him Old Jack, and promising his end was near. His health deteriorated rapidly over the course of several years. In 1820, John Bell was found unconscious in his bed. A strange black vial was discovered near his body. No one recognized the substance inside. The spirit proudly claimed that it had poisoned him. John Bell died shortly after. During his funeral, the witch's voice rang out, laughing and mocking the mourners. It sang loudly until the last person left the cemetery. After John's death, the activity slowed. Betsy broke off her engagement with Joshua Gardner. The spirit seemed pleased and began to disappear. But before vanishing completely, it made a chilling promise. It would return in 7 years. In 1828, as promised, the spirit allegedly returned. It appeared briefly to John Bell's son, telling him of future wars, disasters, and spiritual secrets. Then it vanished again. But many believe the Bell Witch never truly left. Over 2 centuries later, the Bell Witch Cave, located on the family's original property, is considered one of the most haunted sites in America. Visitors report hearing voices, footsteps, and the same knocking sounds described in 1817. Some claim to be scratched. Others experience overwhelming dread. Even skeptics have admitted to feeling something unnatural inside the cave. The US government has officially documented the Bell Witch case as part of American folklore. The haunting has inspired books, documentaries, and films. In fact, the movie An American Haunting, 2005, was based on the Bell Witch legend. But no fictional version can match the terror that gripped the Bell family for years. What makes the Bell Witch case so terrifying is not just the violence or the voice, but the intelligence. It wasn't a mindless spirit. It remembered, it learned, it hated. It could disappear at will, read minds, and speak of events it couldn't have possibly known. No one truly knows what the Bell Witch was. A ghost? A demon? Or something even older? To this day, some descendants of the Bell family refuse to discuss the events. Others believe the curse still lingers in their bloodline. Tourists still visit the property. Some leave with stories. Others never speak of what they saw. The Bell Witch story endures for one reason: it feels real. There were dozens of witnesses. The names were real. The place is real. And the fear still lives. Because sometimes, evil doesn't come from the grave. Sometimes, it walks beside us. And sometimes, it whispers your name in the dark.